Hi, this is Chris with your weekly crypto update for the week of August 15th, where I take a look at the macro factors that drive the crypto market. All right, let's take a look at the top three things in my notebook. Number one, higher highs. Number two, Ethereum. And number three, broadening in the US and Europe. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna take a look at is Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 8.5% this week. It's up 34% over the last 3 weeks. So you've seen strong price action over the last 3 weeks or so. Ethereum's up 9.8% last week and up over 51% over the last 3 weeks. So this week you had okay volume. You didn't have accelerating volume this week, which is it's fine, but it's you really want to see that accelerating volume. The reason I don't think volume accelerated this week is because you're kind of in an in-between area price zone. So for me, the key levels that I'm looking at, particularly is Bitcoin. So let's just take a look at Bitcoin real quick. What I'm looking at is a series of higher lows. So you got a higher low here, higher low here, higher low here, series of higher highs. Okay, but again, we're still kind of in no man's land. So for me, the upward range I'm looking at is somewhere around 50 grand. And the reason I'm looking at that is because number one, it's a nice round number. And then number two, look at all these people trapped up here. This is a lot of volume up here. This is about 2 months of price action that's up there above 50. And that, in my opinion, that's going to create selling pressure once Bitcoin starts to tap onto 50. Do I think everyone's going to sell who's trapped up there? Absolutely not. Most of them will probably hold, but there will be some people that want out, and that's going to create some supply pressure once Bitcoin reaches that area. And that's, in my opinion, I'm going to watch that. Maybe it punches through easily, and then we'll have to take that information in when it comes. But just based on the amount of volume that's above 50,000 and the amount of time that's spent up there, I think Bitcoin will run into some supply pressure there. On the downside, the number that I'm looking at is 41,300, and I believe it's right over here. We had a breakout right here, and I think if you get below 41,300, it would basically take out all of this price action right here the last couple weeks. And I'm not saying that that's the time where you need to sell or that's when you need to take your position off. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to pay attention to that level and then see how it behaves at that level. Okay, so now let's take a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum, like we said, it's up 51% over the last 3 weeks. For me, the key levels I'm looking at, on the high side, I'm looking at 4 grand. Okay. The reason that is, it's a nice round number. It gets people interested. Ethereum hits 4 grand. It's a headline. So when the headline comes in, then you get more people that aren't really crypto people. And ultimately that, if this market's going to continue its upward thrust, that's what's going to have to happen. You're going to have those non-crypto investors have those headlines. They get disseminated. Now they're interested. So for me, it's 4,000. I wouldn't expect a lot of resistance there, particularly because there's just not a lot of volume that's trapped up there right now. I could see it punching through 4,000 pretty easily. Maybe it goes up to 4,000, pulls back to 3,800, consolidates a little bit, then punches through. I could see that happening, but it doesn't have near the selling pressure that Bitcoin does, which I think plays into why I'm more bullish Ethereum than Bitcoin, and I'll go into that here in a little bit. As far as the downside, I think again this is similar. You had a breakout at 2,900. I think if you go below 2,900, you're gonna wipe out over a week of price action. For me, that's a valuable data point. Doesn't mean I'm gonna sell my Ethereum. It's just a data point. I want to see how it behaves if it takes out that. If it takes out a couple weeks of price action. Maybe it needs to digest. That's perfectly fine. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong, but it could need to digest. So I'm looking at 2,900 on the downside, 4,000 to the upside. Another thing to pay attention to, or I noticed this week, is this phenomenon that when something trades against what the news is. So this week you had a couple bearish things come through in the news. Number one was the crypto amendment was not included in the infrastructure bill. So this amendment would have narrowed the scope of what can be defined as a broker in that bill. So right now, the way it was passed is there's potential that miners and proof of stake validators can be included as brokers. All you need to know is regulation on those miners and validators could potentially have to submit transaction data to the IRS. All you need to know, regulation is generally bearish and generally coincides with bearish price action. But what did you see? You had that regulatory news come through and the price action, it didn't really move, didn't flinch, and then closed higher on the week. Another thing, the Poly network, there was a hack in which $600 million was stolen off the Poly network. This is the largest hack in the history of DeFi. What did price do? Price went up. Okay, so when price goes up on bearish news, okay, if you lose $600 million, that's generally bearish. It's already known as kind of a Wild West space as it is, and one of those fears comes true, you would think, hey, money's coming out of it. No, that's not what happened. Price action was bullish. So that's an important data point. It's not always what it does, but what it doesn't do. It didn't pull back. So what that's telling me is the appetite is still strong. Okay. The next thing I want to go into is Ethereum. So Ethereum, again, like I pull up this chart. This is the Ethereum in Bitcoin terms chart. Now this is pure technical analysis. This technical analysis implies that there's a exponential move upward in Ethereum, even in relation to Bitcoin. Bitcoin performs at 200% compound annual growth rate. Ethereum could outperform that. It sounds absurd, but again, this is what just very broad level technical analysis shows on this chart. But what I want to do is get away from that and get into the fundamental aspect of why Ethereum could outperform Bitcoin and why I'm more bullish Ethereum than Bitcoin, at least in the short term. So you've got this interesting supply and demand dynamic that I touched on very briefly last week, but I want to get into it in greater detail today. So you've got this supply pressure. Okay, transition from proof of work model, which is where energy is converted into digital assets, into Ethereum, and now proof of stake, which was where Ethereum needs to be held and staked to be a validator on the network, to approve and push through transactions on the network into each block. So when you're staking, you need to have a minimum of 32 Ethereum, and that 32 Ethereum is locked up, so it's not being sold. Okay, couple that with, you had the London hard fork that came out this week, EIP 1559. The important thing to know that's a proposal to change Ethereum. What you need to know about that is that Ethereum is now being burned for each transaction. The base fee for each block that used to go to the miners is now being burned. So when network activity on the Ethereum network is increasing, there's more base fee burned, which means more Ethereum is burned, which means the supply of Ethereum is going down. So as the demand is increasing, the supply is actually decreasing. So you have that London hard fork where the base fee is burned, Ethereum being burned. You have staking model where you have to hold Ethereum, you have to stake it, you can't sell it. Then you have people that are just holding that are super bullish like me. Okay, I bought Ethereum in November, December. I sold some of it, but I didn't sell all of it. Okay, because I'm bullish Ethereum in the medium term. Okay, that's creating this shortage of Ethereum. That's creating supply pressure. Now let's talk about demand. Okay, now Ethereum, essentially, it's the oil, it's the currency of the DeFi ecosystem. So let's take a look at the DeFi ecosystem. Year over year, the DeFi ecosystem has market cap, total value locked in the DeFi ecosystem is up 1,200% year over year, up 1,200%. That's demand for Ethereum. Second thing, stable coins. Okay, these stable coins, most of them use Ethereum. They're transmitted across the Ethereum network. When I'm sending USDC to FTX, I'm getting Ethereum fees for that. I'm not getting them. Sorry, I'm paying Ethereum fees for that because USDC uses the Ethereum network. It's an ERC20 token like many of these stablecoins are. Not all of them, but many of them are, at least partially on the Ethereum network. Stablecoin market cap up 400% year over year. So you're seeing this increased demand in stablecoins in the DeFi ecosystem. Remember, DeFi solves a very important problem. It's people getting yield on assets. That's a very valuable problem. It's so valuable that the total value locked in that ecosystem is up 1,200% year over year. Then you've also got when new coins are coming to the market. So I want to get access. Let's say there's a project I want to get access to that's not very well known, and I can't get it on Coinbase, Gemini, FTX, or even Binance. Okay, so how do I get access to this coin? Okay, I like the team, I like the project, like the investors. It fits my criteria. How do I get access to it? Well, I can go to Uniswap or SushiSwap or one of these decentralized exchanges, and what do? I have to trade Ethereum. Uniswap only uses Ethereum. SushiSwap uses, there's a little bit more interoperability, but the reality is Ethereum is the access point. I have to trade in Ethereum for these coins. There's more coins coming out. New projects are coming out. This is the bull market. It's frothy. That's when most ideas come out. Not the best ones, in my opinion, but you get a lot of these new coins coming out, and people are trading in Ethereum for these coins. And that's another demand acceleration on Ethereum. So you've got this dynamic where supply is constrained by the burning, by the stakers, by the hodlers, and then demand is accelerating in DeFi, in stable coins, in these new coins. And for me, this is the perfect cocktail for an exponential move higher. So what I like is I like when I have a thesis and I've got a fundamentals, and then I'm seeing it confirmed in price action. That's what everything is telling me in Ethereum, and that's why I'm incredibly bullish on Ethereum. All right, the last thing I want to get to, last thing in my top three, is this broadening in the US and Europe. So if you take a look, the US index, the S&P 500, up 0.7% this week at an all-time high. So closed at an all-time high for the week. NASDAQ was flat, but it's only a couple weeks from its all-time high. Let's take a look at Germany. Germany's up 1.7% week over week, closed at an all-time high. England up 1.4%. France up 1.2%. Spain up 1.3%. France, England, Spain, Germany, England. I already said England. They're all up 4 weeks straight. So a couple weeks ago, I was looking at these all looked pretty creaky. Spain looked terrible. England and Germany looked like they were on the verge of breaking down, but no, it wasn't a breakdown. It was a consolidation. Now there's strength there. And you've seen that reflected in the crypto market because every dip's getting bought. Everyone's participating. Asia, Europe, North America. And in the US particularly in the S&P 500 in the tech sector, there's a lot of hedges on. Volatility is being dampened. And what that does is it prevents a downside event. And usually when that downside event is prevented, you have this steady grind higher. And that steady grind higher, that lack of volatility is only going to benefit the crypto market. So now let's get into Asia. Asia still doesn't look great. China's up 2 weeks straight, up 1.7% last week, so that's decent. Japan doesn't look good. Indonesia's actually up 3 out of the last 4 weeks, so that's a positive. But you had South Korea down 4.5% for the week. It actually broke its trend. So for me, South Korea looks bad. So you can throw South Korea now into one of the worst looking Asian markets. And now it's joined China, Japan, and Indonesia as all looking bearish. So that's something to keep an eye on. Okay, so now let's get into, so who had the best week last week? And you know, I don't cover all the coins. I cover mainly the top 20 and maybe about another 10. But Cardano was my number 3 on signal strength last week, up 48% week over week. Fantastic week for Cardano holders. Congratulations. XRP. Look, I don't pay a lot of attention to Ripple. There's just Ripple's just got this stigma. It's been under investigation. There's only a few people own the supply. Ripple's not something I just want to be involved in. To me, there's risks that are outside of my control. That's why I don't really get involved in Ripple. But it's up 39% week over week. Had a good week. Matic, Polygon. Look, this is one of the projects I'm most bullish on, up 36% week over week. Had a phenomenal week. One of the things that I wanted to get into is what is my portfolio and how do I look at it? So what I can tell you is I own Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, Matic, Rune, and Stacks, STX. My position sizing is very intentional here. Ethereum and Bitcoin make up about 50% of my portfolio. And why is that? Because they're the most liquid markets. They have the highest market cap. They're not going to go through as wild of price swings, even though it's wild relative to other investments, as wild of price swings as the much lower cap coins will, which I'll get into here in a second. So I'm 50% Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then Solana, Matic, Rune, those are all about 10% positions. And then I have some smaller cap positions that are, 2 to 3% a piece. And the reason why and here's why, my opinion, Solana and Matic will outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. So why don't I have 50% of my portfolio in Solana? And here, I'll show you why right here. Or let's say Matic. So let's take a look at the Matic price action in May of this year. Okay, so the week Matic, let's take a look at this week. May 18th. Let's take a look at May 18th only. Okay, May 18th opens at $1.60, goes up to $2.70. This is Matic, and then closes at $2.14. So it's a great day. Hopefully you got out at $2.70. Okay, that's a massive move in a single day. Now let's take a look at the next day. So the next day it opens at $1.87, goes up to $2.64, but goes down to $1 and then closes around $2. So that's a wild price swing. Look, I'm not going to put 50% of my capital up, with that volatility. Okay, number one, you need to be at the switch. That happened over 2 days. Those wild price swings happen over 2 days. If you're not at the switch, dialed in, ready with a plan to take action, you're not going to sell the top. Selling the top is it's a fantasy anyway. I mean, look at this. What I can tell you is when you have that big reversal, that's massive sell pressure. Somebody's hitting massive orders. They're dumping supply onto the market. If you're not dialed in, you're not gonna sell that day. You're more likely to sell down here. Oh, it's never gonna come back. Look, it closed at $1. I'm just gonna sell. Look, it went to 74 cents 4 days after. 4 days after it was 270. That's wild price action. I don't want that to be 50% of my portfolio. Look, I want exposure to that, but it's not going to be the dominant position in my portfolio. So that's how I look at it. And Solana's in that regard. Rune, Stacks, they're in that regard. Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're going to have they have less volatility. So that's why they're going to take up larger positions in my portfolio. Last thing I want to end on is signal strength. And look, to me, Luna looks the best. It's really close to its all-time high. It's up 6 weeks straight. Cardano looks fantastic, was up 48% week over week. Aave up 5 out of the last 6 weeks. It's pretty close to its all-time high. Matic looks strong like we discussed. But remember, Matic really pops in a couple days, so just be careful with it. Solana's near an all-time high. And then Ethereum. Ethereum looks good. Those are my top signal strength picks. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.